Hey everybody, welcome. Thank you for coming to Ask the Experts. As you know, I am Laura Gilsdorf with Madison and Company. I'm based out of Evergreen, but I do a lot of business around the Front Range because I like to go where my clients take me. And this is Leanne. I'll let her introduce herself.
Hi, my name is Leanne Merciez, and I'm a mortgage banker with Universal Lending, and I am licensed in Colorado and Arizona, so I can help you out in either state. I've been doing this over 10 years now.
Awesome. And I've been doing this for about 7, which seems crazy to me. Time really does fly. And Leanne and I met each other right when I became a realtor. She was one of the first people I ever met in this industry and has been a good friend and a good partner ever since. And I highly recommend working with her for all your real estate mortgage needs and everything else. But we're going to go ahead and dive in because we've got a couple topics. I'm going to go over the real estate market and what's happening right now and what we're seeing in terms of stats and data. And then I'll hand it over to Leanne afterwards so that she can go over why it's so important to be pre-approved as a buyer. So in terms of inventory, it continues to be our biggest issue because inventory has, the last couple years has just been going down and down and down. I mean, I think we're still at 0.8 months of supply of inventory, which means we're still seeing high competition, offers over list price, things like that. And yet we are still seeing houses sitting because let's face it, they're just not sexy. Maybe you had an agent who took photos with their iPhone, or it just for whatever reason isn't appealing to buyers. And as we get into the data, what we're seeing is buyers are tending to be a little bit pickier right now. Those interest rates are putting them in a perspective of feeling like they don't want a fixer-upper on the large part, not all buyers, but on the large part, because they don't have a lot of extra disposable income to invest in major remodels or painting or things like that. So that is one thing that we're seeing. But like I said,
It probably makes, having your house, if you're going to list your house too, up to date and
for sure,
and ready to go.
For sure. And like one of the stats I saw is that buyers are now showing about 14 to 15 homes before they get something under contract, where historically or in recent history, it was down around like 10 to 12 showings before they got something under contract. So that's where we start to get into the data to see, okay, well, what's going on with the buyer's mentality? They're just being a little bit pickier and they're not as ready to jump on the first thing that they see. And so that's where it is really important, where if you are a seller, doing the updates that you can to make it move in turnkey ready is always going to be in your best interest. And if you're a buyer and you're a little handy and you can work with some things, then, it might behoove you to not pass by those listings that don't have great, sexy photos, because not everybody's going to see them. And we saw that the average showings per week right now to get something under contract for a listing is 4.1, which I thought was kind of low. Like it's only taking 4 showings to get something under contract, but I guess that's indicative of our month supply of inventory.
Not a lot of houses to look at.
Exactly. But if you are a seller and you're not getting at least your 4.1 showings per week, then that's probably a sign that it's time to consider a price drop. So if we look at things overall, the past couple of weeks, typically we've seen that the best week to sell statistically is the week after Easter. We kind of saw that, but it wasn't quite as hot as the week after President's Day this year. So we're slowing down a little bit, and we think it's because of you could tell me, but the stalemate that we're kind of in with interest rates, where a lot of homeowners don't want to move because they're really happy with their low interest rates. So the people that I'm mostly seeing moving are people who have to, like divorces, deaths, jobs, things like that, or people who are completely new to home ownership. Would you say the same?
Yeah, I completely agree. If you have a 2% interest rate and you have to go to a 6, that's a big difference. And then
Yeah,
you have low inventory. So where are you going to go? That's
exactly.
what a lot of people are thinking.
Exactly. But speaking of interest rates, because this is one of the top questions I get from especially first-time home buyers, but a couple that aren't first-time home buyers is, well, why the interest rates are so high? Why would I buy? Why would I buy at this interest rate? And often what I'll tell them is, if you were to compare yourself as a buyer last year to now, you will fare so much better being a buyer in today's market with today's interest rates, because number one, you're not having there's competition, but it's not so crazy that you're having to put 50 or 100,000 over asking price. That's usually coming in cash, right? And down the line, you can always refinance. But I would say it's still always better to buy than to continue being a renter and just putting more money in your landlord's pocket. I mean, would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. And I think, I tell people that we were spoiled for a few years with,
Sure.
historically low interest rates. And now they're back to just average. I mean, they're average interest rates.
Yeah.
And it's probably going to stay that way for a long time. And I think as people get used to the rates where they're at, we will see more people start moving, because they're going to know that, we're not going to probably see 2%,
For sure. For sure.
at
And I
least in
think
the near future.
that's the trouble right now is, in a lot of ways, it feels like most people have normalized to the interest rates.
Mhm.
However, when it comes to sellers, part of why our inventory is so low is they see that mortgage statement every single month that reminds them that they got those crazy 2.35. Like, I think that's what my interest rate is, which is nuts. I mean, that's basically free money.
Yeah, free money, exactly.
And so that's where we still maintain that low inventory. So looking forward into the market, as May comes in, we typically see the highest number of under contracts in May. This year, I'm not sure what we're going to see. We have a lot of holidays back to back. We've got Cinco de Mayo on a Friday, the weekend after, or maybe 2 weekends after that. I can't do, no, it's the very next weekend. We've got Mother's Day, and then we get right into graduation season and then right into Memorial Day. So while all of that is fairly typical for May, and we see those holidays and we see those life events, the fact that a lot of them are happening on the weekends too is really impacting things. The statistics show that Cinco de Mayo alone decreases the chance of selling by 3%, Mother's Day by 10%. Don't have stats on graduation, but Memorial Weekend is like 40 to 45% reduction in your chances of selling.
Oh, wow.
Which is crazy, right?
Yeah, I didn't know that.
I know. So we'll see, but we're still having people who are moving, life events, things like that. But we don't think we're going to get the uptick that we typically do, but we do think we're going to see more. I mean, we did see 4,000 available units this last week, which is the first time we've seen 4,000 or more in a very long time. So that in and of itself is promising. But what does that mean for you as a buyer or a seller? I would say as a seller, it means you still have to be competitive. We're not in that crazy seller's market where just because you list your home for sale, it's going to sell. You still have to be competitive. You have to be desirable, and you have to be priced right, which means you got to be with a good agent who knows your area, who knows about your house, who can really advise you to make the best choice, not only to get the most money, but to sell in a time frame that's going to work for you. And then if you're a buyer, it's still a great time to be a buyer. And don't be afraid to hit up those holiday weekends, because you might be one of the only few out there searching for homes that weekend and not as much competition. So overall, that's what we're seeing, is we're still kind of in this space of unknown. I would say, the last couple of years have been unpredictable. It remains unpredictable at the moment. We hope to see more inventory, but until we're back into that like 6-month supply zone, we're still in a seller's market, and that's where we're at. What do you have to say about that, Leanne?
Yeah, I mean, recently I've seen more applications come in.
That's
And
good
I know,
news.
good news. And a lot of them are first-time home buyers. And I'm seeing a big difference where in the past, first-time home buyers had different expectations as far as monthly payment goes. But now a lot of these first time home buyers have been paying high rent. So they've been paying mortgage payment or rent payments that are $2,800, $3,000, $4,000.
Sure.
So when I show them what their mortgage payment's going to be with the higher interest rate, that's typically what they're paying right now.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit less, a little bit more, but that's fine because they've been paying it. They've already allocated
Yeah.
that to their budget. So I'm seeing a lot of that. I've been seeing a lot of people, saving money so they have a bigger down payment over the last few years.
Awesome.
So I'm just seeing a different type of buyer because the rental market has kind of dictated those higher prices, which in return allows people to feel comfortable with a little bit higher of a mortgage payment.
Yeah, and probably something we could talk about on another call, but with
Mhm.
all the talk about the property taxes and things going up, that's affecting the rental market as well, which is also pushing a lot of people into home ownership because just the way it all works. We
Yeah.
can't get into the details now, but I think that's a really, really good point because rentals have gone nutso over the last couple of years. And so you think that it's crazy to buy a house, but it's not really when you compare side by side what you're paying in rent to what you would put toward a mortgage and thinking about what you get, because that rent price might be getting you a tiny little 1 bedroom or 2 bedroom where you could get a whole house or something better in a mortgage. But
Mhm. Exactly. And, that brings us to the point of, you know, I had someone email me before this and just asking, what's the difference between a pre-qualification and a pre-approval? And it's pretty simple. The pre-qualification is where you fill out an application, and a lot of online lenders do this. You fill out the application, they run your credit, you put in your information, and they tell you how much you're approved for, but they don't actually look at any physical documentation. So they're not looking at your assets, they're not looking at your income, they're just looking at what you gave them. So what I calculate your income might be different than what you calculate your income at. So pre-qualification isn't really a good indication unless a mortgage lender actually looks at your documents, pulls your credit, and has a good idea about what you can or cannot afford.
yeah. Yeah. And I would say as your realtor partner, that's so important because so often, especially when I'm working with a new client, that's one of the first questions I want to know is how serious are you about buying? Because we don't want to get to the stage of making an offer on a house to find out at that point that you can't afford it because you didn't submit all your docs
Mhm.
and really know what you can afford. So I'm always a fan of more information is better always. And so going through that process with Leanne or another lender is key to getting out there to searching for a home and being ready to make offers.
Yeah, it's funny. I get this call all the time. My realtor told me I need a lender letter. So can you give me one? And
Out of
I
the
want to
blue.
make an offer. Yeah, I want to make an offer on this house. Can you give me a lender letter? What do you need? And to me, that's scary
Yeah.
because it's a strategy. We want to make sure that when we do the approval, it's not so you can get a lender letter. It's not so you can make an offer on a house. It's so you understand what the mortgage payment's going to be, how much you can afford. This is going to be a huge liability and a huge asset at the same time. And we really want to make sure that you are comfortable with purchasing that house. And there are different loan programs that we can look at, different down payment assistance programs that we can look at. So there's a whole bunch of different things that we look at. And it's not just, hey, I need a lender letter so I can put an
For
offer
sure.
on this house.
Yeah. And what do you think, Leanne? Do you think that that's happening more often these days because of things like Zillow and whatnot, where you can just plug in a few numbers and think that you're golden because
Yes.
Zillow told you so? Or what are you seeing in that regard?
Yeah, I think it is not only just the online lenders, but a lot of the, online real estate
Yeah, yeah,
too.
for
Uh,
sure.
So you think that if you just put your income of self-employed of, $50,000 and have them pull your credit, you're good, but you're really not looking at the full financial picture.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. So note to self, if you're thinking about being a buyer, make sure you talk to Leanne
Yes.
first.
Please talk to me, and it's important for everyone that calls to understand that if it's something that if it's a goal a year or 2 or 6 months or next month to purchase, that's fine with me. We can work on that goal. So just because you're calling and you might just, graduated from college, but you want to purchase a home in the next 2 years, I can help develop a plan. So in 2 years, you're ready to purchase a home.
Yeah,
So I'm not looking at, let's get you in immediately, close this loan and move on. I'm developing, a partnership, and I want to make sure people are comfortable.
definitely, definitely. And that's the thing about real estate, and for us as professionals in real estate, it really is relationship based.
Mhm.
It's not just to close a deal or to help you buy the one house. And that's one of the most common things that happens, especially when I'm at open houses, meeting new people and things like that, is we'll get the, oh, I'm just looking, I'm 6 months out. I'm like, well, if you're 6 months out, this is actually the
Yeah.
time to get all your ducks in a row, have a realtor partner by your side, have a lender partner by your side. Because
Mhm.
again, more information is always going to do you better, no matter what the market looks like. So if you have goals of doing anything and it looks like it's 6 months out, a year out, 2 years
Yeah.
out, just contact us. We're not beholden to any schedule or time. We're here to serve you and what works for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're
Cool.
excited to keep making these videos. So
Yeah, we'll have more and more.
yeah.
And I had one other question for you on terms of pre-approvals.
Hmm.
What is the difference, or can you share with everyone the difference between then a pre-approval and like fully underwritten? If somebody says that, what does that actually mean as a buyer?
So that's a good question. So a pre-approval means a loan officer has looked at all the documents and we've pulled credit and we've ran it through what we call desktop underwriting. So an automatic underwriting program that gives us, the eligible, improve eligible, but just lets us know, hey, this is going to be a good loan. Then if you want to improve that step and make your offer even stronger, we have the ability to send you to underwriting. So you actually see a physical underwriter who looks at your file. They call out any conditions that may need to be met, and they're usually just small conditions because we collect everything up front, maybe name variations, things like that. But then it just solidifies that lender letter. It solidifies that, hey, I've been fully approved. I've been looked at by an underwriter. And really the only thing that we need is to find a property and an appraisal on that
Yeah.
property.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Cool. Well, thanks for answering that. And then I've got a couple questions that were sent over just through the chat that I thought I'd answer real quick. The first one is, are there any particular neighborhoods or areas that are currently in high demand? I think the ones that we're seeing the most tend to be Cherry Creek, Five Points, Capitol Hill, the Golden Triangle, Washington Park, Baker, Sloan's Lake, and Lincoln Park. So that's a long list, but those tend to be kind of the hottest, sexiest areas to be in the Denver area. Now, if you're like me and you're out in Evergreen, or Leanne and you're up in northern Denver, it's a little bit different, and I'm happy to answer. But if we're looking at just kind of the Denver neighborhoods, those tend to be the hottest areas. The next question is, what is the current inventory of properties available for sale? Like I said earlier, we're sitting at about 4,000 available units right now, which overall is pretty good because it seems
Mhm.
like a high number, but remember, we're still at that 0.8 months of supply. So until we see that go up a little bit more, we're still in a seller's market. And then the last is, are there any trends in terms of property types that are currently more popular? So when I looked up the data on this question, interestingly enough, I found out that the highest type of selling home in the Denver area right now are specifically bungalows.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting. I've always liked a Denver bungalow, but it's not the new modern high rises or the boxy looking homes or anything like that. It's just the classic bungalow. So if you are someone who's looking for a bungalow, you might find yourself with some competition.
Yeah. Well, in those neighborhoods that you stated have a lot of those cute bungalows too.
For sure, for
Mhm.
sure. Yeah. Well, did you get any other questions, Leanne? Or
I didn't. Those were the
okay,
main two that I got.
great.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thanks everybody for joining us for our very first
Yes.
Ask
Thank
the
you.
Experts Q&A session. We're going to be doing these kind of on a bi-monthly schedule. You'll see this full schedule on our website, and feel free to sign up to RSVP for those and get reminders. And you can always email us, text us. However, we are available for you to answer all of your questions and to support you in whatever you're up to make your real estate dreams come true.
Yeah. We can't wait to chat.
All right. Bye.
Bye.